Hey, what is going on, y'all? Welcome back to another video. As y'all can see, I'm outside here in front of the combine here, and before we get into today's video, I just wanted to come on here and talk to y'all for a little bit. So as of right now, I'm recording this video, I have 760 subscribers on YouTube. This, as y'all know, is a Massey Ferguson 760 combine. So 760 combine, 760 subscribers, I should say. So I thought that was a coincidence. Speaking of my subscribers, I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So 2026, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So I really need y'all guys' help. If you like content like this, videos like this, like, share, subscribe, comment. So before we get into today's video, if you want to see more stuff like this, make sure to subscribe. You know, like it if you like what you see, and I can keep producing videos like this. And yeah, that's all I really wanted to come on here and talk to y'all. We've got quite a bit to get into today. I hope y'all like this video. So if you want to see more like this, like, share, comment, subscribe, do what you need to do. And yeah, I look forward to expanding and growing this channel in the future. So if you like videos like this, you like farming content, stuff like that, like, share, subscribe, comment. Let's get into today's video. Right, so the first thing we're going to get into here is we're just going to do a basic, simple walk around of this combine. This is a 1976 Massey Ferguson 760 combine. It's been sitting abandoned for about 30 years. As y'all can see, I came in here, I cut this tree. There was a big old pine tree laying up against the rear end of this machine. But I came back here with a weed eater. I cut all of this, I believe, kudzu and poison ivy and stuff like that, and then I cut that tree down so that way in the future, in the coming years, when I throw some batteries in this thing and we get this thing fired up, I can get out of here without having any issues and having to cut trees down. So I thought I would cut all the trees down, get all the brush cut and everything, so that way in the future, when I do get the money to and all the finances and stuff to get this machine running and back in the fields one day, you know, I don't have any issues in the future trying to get this thing out or get this thing, you know, out of these woods or anything like that. So I wanted to make sure all the land was cleared around this machine. As I mentioned, this is a Massey Ferguson combine, been sitting abandoned 30 years. You don't see a lot of these anymore. There's only one other dude I know that has a combine like this, but his is an 860, so it's one series up. Still pretty much the same combine. They have the same body, same design, except the 860 came with a gray cab. These also came with a gray cab, but only the later models. This is a more earlier model, so this type of combine you would have saw with a white cab, or not a white cab, a white top for the cab. So on the top of the cab, the roof of the cab would have been a white color. But unfortunately, this has been sitting for 30 years. Everything's rust, so there's rust holes all in it. So the cab on this thing, the top of it, the roof is no longer white. It's rusted, and it's not as good looking or anything like that. It looks pretty bad now. But as y'all can see, my previous videos I've done in the past and YouTube shorts, this whole entire header, it had a bunch of crap. It had like weeds and stuff growing in it. There was dirt all in it. I came through here, I cleaned it out the best I could. You can see the gathering chains a lot better. You can see the rows a lot better. And then if you come over here, you can actually finally see the stalk rollers down there. So that's what grabs a hold and rolls down the stalk while the gathering chains feed it up into the auger. And then that gets conveyed up into the feeder house, and then it gets threshed, and then eventually it gets up in there into your grain tank. But we'll explain that in a different video, cause I'm planning on doing a video series on this combine. So yeah, I've got several videos planned for this thing, going over how a combine or a combine like this specifically works. So if you like Massey Ferguson equipment, farm equipment, combine, stuff like that, this is definitely the video series you do not want to miss out. Now that we've done kind of a basic walk around and overview of this machine, we're going to start looking at some things here and there, and yeah, let's start looking at some things. Okay, so first and foremost, what's a video on a piece of farm equipment without going inside of it and looking at all the controls and stuff like that? Here I am sitting inside of the cab. As you can see down there, that was a 4-row corn head that I was standing in front of, showing y'all this combine. It is probably 90 degrees today, and this combine has a lot of black interior, so as you could imagine, 90 degrees outside with Lord knows how much humidity, and then all the black interior inside this thing, the seat and everything, it's probably 100, 110 in here. I mean, I do not doubt that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how hot it was. But right here, this is the steering wheel. Down there, there's a fire extinguisher, because this machine has lots of bearings and stuff and things that could fail and overheat and go bad. So always, if you're operating one of these, always keep a fire extinguisher nearby, because those bearings, they could fail, the grease could go bad in them, they could start overproducing heat, stuff like that. So always make sure there's a fire extinguisher nearby. Now that fire extinguisher, I know it is expired. Sorry if y'all went all over the place. There was a wasp. Lord, I hope there ain't no nest in here. Sorry about that. But anyways, yeah, this fire extinguisher, like I said, it's been sitting 30 years, so it's probably not any good. But yeah, you can always get those replaced. I think you can take them to Tractor Supply and get them tested or something like that. So maybe I'll take that one to get tested or refilled or whatever you do. Moving over here to the right hand side, this is all of our actual controls. I don't know if I ever mentioned this being a manual transmission. At one point I thought this was a manual transmission, but I think it's a hydrostatic, because as you can see right there, there's a little a picture of like a combine moving forward, and this goes forward and then it's in the neutral and then it goes back. So I think this might be an early hydrostatic. Over here is some more control stuff like that. That has a little picture of a header, so this might be for the hydraulic cylinders on the header. Over here, I think this is lights or something. Well, actually, no, take that back. This is lights. It says lights on it. Over here, this is all your gauges and stuff. There's a light for something, sensor for something. Over here, this is your throttle, everything like that. There was a bunch of bolts and crap on the floor, so I put them in a bag. Down here, this is where all you do your concave set and stuff like that. Here's the keys. That's where we would crank the machine up. Actually, I don't know if you actually crank the machine like this. I think you turn it on, and then this, maybe you push this to start it. That just turns your ignition on. So yeah, I have no idea what most of the controls do. I did find a owner's operator manual in my papa's machine shop, but it's for like a later model combine, so it doesn't really fully match this machine. So yeah, I have no clue what I'm really looking at, you know what I mean? So yeah, the stuff that's in the manual and the stuff that's in this combine doesn't really match up all the way, so it's hard to tell what's what. Moving back up here, here's where you shift your gears. So you have high and low range, and then you have first, second, and neutral. And then once you select your gear and your range, you let off the clutch, and then if this is a hydrostatic, you come here to actually control and move the combine once you have selected your gear and your range. Back here, here's a bunch of wires and parts and crap. Like I said, it is extremely hot outside, so yeah, that's pretty much it for the little tour of the cab and interior. So now that we've given you a tour of the interior and everything, let's move to the grain tank and the engine compartment of this combine, show y'all that. So yeah, hope you enjoy this little tour of the interior, the cab here, and let's keep on moving on. So here I am standing on top of the engine compartment. You just lift these doors up and the engine, it's right there. Right here's the grain tank, and then right here is the cab, which I was just then showing y'all. Down there's the header and the feeder house and everything. Right here, this is the air filter, air intake. This would actually be more of the intake part, sucking in the air. The filter's down there. And then that little compartment is for, you lift that compartment up, and that is where the hydraulic fluid reservoir is at. So all the hydraulic fluid needed to run the cylinders, the hoses, anything that requires hydraulics to run or operate, that's where the reservoir is at. So that's where all the fluid is held to be circulated through the machine to all the parts and stuff that need hydraulic fluid. Moving over here, this is the grain tank. This is 180 bushels, I believe. I think with the extensions, these small extensions, it is 180 bushel. Without the extensions, it's probably only 150. In the future, when I get this thing running and I use it on my farm one day, hopefully, I would like to add some extensions on the side and maybe weld or add more extensions to extend this closer to 200 bushels, maybe a little over 200, just so I can get some extra bushels out. Over here, this is the auger pipe. That's where all of your crop goes out whenever you are whenever the grain tank's full. You need to unload it into a auger or a grain wagon, grain cart, something like that. That's where it's going to go to. All the crop comes. There's a big auger that is inside of this grain elevator, and that's what conveys. It gets sucked down through here. Y'all can't see it because there's a bunch of leaves, because there's no tarp sitting over this thing, but there's a cross auger that runs underneath here, and it goes up into this pipe, and that's what sucks. I think the crop gets sucked down this side, goes to that cross auger, then comes up that pipe, and then it gets shot out there whenever you engage it. Then right here, I believe to be the this is your air compressor, like your AC compressor radiator. So the AC compressor, it runs off a belt, and it sits right down here underneath this hood. And then the hoses, they run, this is the radiator that sits down here. The hoses run, and I think they run up through here. And this is a electric fan, which the wires are torn, but there's a radiator in there, and that's what cools your AC. See, right there's the AC lines. They run up through here through the AC and heat. And there is a valve that's near the floor of the combine in the corner, and that's, if you flip that valve, it determines if it's either AC or heat that it's putting out. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the grain tank and stuff. I mean, it's just pretty simple. Whenever the grain is threshed and clean, it comes up this grain elevator, comes out this auger, and then it goes down into here. And then when you're ready to unload, it goes through that cross auger, up that pipe, and then out that pipe, which also has an auger in it. Underneath there's two little gears that meet, and those gears, they're connected together with the teeth and everything. And when you're ready to unload and you engage it, that's those teeth that are the teeth that are pushed together or whatever, connected together. That's what actually runs that auger in there. So without that, the auger will not operate. But now let's move on back to the combine so I can show y'all the straw walker area. So let's head over there now. Right, so now that we have moved to the straw walker and I guess cleaning area of the combine, let me just explain what all's going on here. So you have two very awful looking hydraulic hoses that are absolutely blown and not good for anything. Those two hoses, they run, here's another radiator. This is the third radiator on this combine. But instead of AC or engine temperature, this is for your hydraulic fluid. Obviously, this is a large machine. It requires a lot of hydraulics. So once the hydraulic fluid gets circulated throughout the machine, it is extremely hot from running through all the components and being compressed and everything. So it runs to this radiator. It gets cooled and everything. Comes to these tubes. The fluid does. It goes through here, gets cooled. That radiator, I know, probably isn't any good. Needs to be taken to a shop or replaced. I don't know if they have any aftermarket hydraulic radiator, so it probably just needs to be taken to a shop and redone or something like that. I don't know. I'm not too sure if you can find aftermarket radiators for this combine. Down here, this is the actual straw walker area. Underneath these straw walkers, there is a grain return pan, which is that thing right there. That's the grain return pan. So pretty much as your straw, if you're harvesting something like wheat, which I mean all crops are going to come out the straw walker, but let's just say for example you're harvesting wheat or oats, something that actually has straw to it. Once it's threshed, the straw is going to be, these straw walkers, they move in a motion like this. So as they're going like that, and obviously it's a lot faster than this, it's running at a very high RPM. You do not want to get sucked in this. It'll slice you right up. But there's supposed to be a door on this, a cover, but it's been taken off. And I actually found that. It's in pretty good condition. The paint looks a lot better than this because it's been sitting in a shed. But this has been sitting outside 30 years. But anyways, as it's moving, as that straw gets walked through there, if there's any trapped grain that didn't have a good chance to clean, or if there's any grain, let's say they're concaves, they weren't tightened down good, so they didn't get a good thresh the first time, as it's walking that straw, some of the excess grain that didn't get a chance to thresh will actually fall down in that grain pan, and that grain pan, it's also spinning in a motion like that, and that'll walk all that grain that you were about to lose before it came out the rear end of the machine, and then it sends it down to the sieves, and the sieves, it gets cleaned. And you know, if it goes all the way through the sieves and doesn't get clean good still, there's actually another rethresher. This thing doesn't have a tailings elevator that sends it back to the actual threshing cylinder up front. It has its own elevator and stuff. I'll show y'all that here in a second. And then underneath that grain return pan, those are the sorry about that, guys. My GoPro overheated, so I had to let it sit a few minutes. So if I got cut off at the end of my sentence there and you're wondering what happened, no, I did not have a stroke or a heart attack or anything. My GoPro just overheated. But as I was saying, underneath there, that's the sieves. That's what cleans your grain. And then if your grain doesn't get all the way cleaned, there's an auger underneath them sieves. And this is basically a mini cylinder. They call it a rethrasher, whatever you want to call it. But let me actually get it unhooked here. So for those of you who have never seen the inside of a combine, this is pretty much what the threshing cylinder looks like. This is just a more mini version of it. So like I was saying, there is a auger underneath the sieves, so if it passes through all the other sieves without being clean and goes into this auger right here to go into the grain tank, it'll actually pass through here. This is, like I said, called a rethrasher, and that pretty much just gives the grain a second chance to be cleaned and thrashed, stuff like that. Once it gets rethreshed, it gets thrown back onto the sieves, I'm pretty sure, and then from there it falls into an auger. Right there, that's that auger, falls into that auger, goes up into an elevator, and that goes up into the grain tank. Here's those hydraulic hoses I showed y'all earlier. That's pretty much the whole tour of the combine for today. So I would just like to tell y'all some interesting facts about this machine. So well, first things first, I'm actually in a Facebook group. It's called like Massey Ferguson 760 Appreciation Group, and I'll have that link down in the description below, so go check it out if you're into farm equipment and stuff like that. It's a very great group. There's a lot of people on there that actually worked in the what's it called, Brantford, Ontario plant making these machines. So yeah, occasionally there's some old timers that come on there and they're like, you know, what's the serial number? I might have helped build or make that machine. So speaking of building and making these machines, all of the wiring and electrical stuff on this combine is hand built. So a fun fact, there is no Massey Ferguson 760 in the entire world that is identical to this one. They may have the same motor, the same transmission, they may have the same components, same design, but when it comes to the electrical wiring and work, there is not a identical combine in the world. Obviously nowadays we have robots and lots of technology that can pretty much just about make it identical and, you know, perfect to the last little bitty detail. But these were obviously handcrafted, hand turned, the metal was hand fabricated, stuff like that. This was long before robots and stuff were a thing. So all the wiring, it was hand done, you know, the copper, everything, you know, the wiring, it was hand put in here with, you know, man's own bare hands. No robots or devices helped build this machine. This was all hand built with screws, wrenches, maybe some early power tools and air drills, but nothing special for the most part. So yeah, that was one interesting fact. Another interesting fact, this combine right here, when it was first launched in 1971, they made 10 of these combines, and those were obviously the prototypes. They did like how many thousand acre testing these things for each 10 of them. They tested them in almost every single U.S. state. Not all of them, almost every single U.S. state they tested these things in. I know Iowa was the main test state, but they did all across the Midwest and Texas and maybe the East Coast, Southeast a little bit. So they hauled those 10 combines in 1971. That whole entire year, they hauled those 10 prototype models all across America and all across the world, testing them in all different types of soil types and you know, cutting conditions. So this combine, it was tested to the absolute, till it couldn't be tested anymore. So they really made sure that this was a great, reliable combine. In case y'all are wondering, this is a Massey Ferguson 1144 corn row head. There's actually a normal header to cut like grains, a grain header for this thing to cut grains, cereal, stuff like that. So this is not the only header we have. We have 3 headers. We have this 4-row corn head, we have that grain header, and then I think we have a second grain header down at my pawpaw's, but it ain't here to show y'all. And then we also have a International IH 800 4-row corn planter and soybean and whatever else you want to plant. But yeah, 1971 they made 10 of these. 1972 it was crowned the largest, most powerful, most capable combine in the entire world. So this combine, I know most people like John Deere and stuff, but you have to give some credit to Massey Ferguson. If Massey never made this combine, you know, the 750, 760, 860s, 850s, then the agriculture market today likely would not be the way it is today without the invention and creation of this machine. That's pretty much going to wrap up for today's video. I have plenty of more videos, so if you like videos like this, like, share, subscribe, comment. I have plenty of videos on this combine. I'll probably make 5 or 6 more, maybe 7, who knows. But that's going to wrap up today's video. If you like content like this, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch y'all in the next one.